So, Eli, you said that, and I know, of course, that you have been a member of the Magnum Agency for a long time. Tell me about how you started working with this legendary agency, and please tell about the life in Magnum Photos.
There's a joke about Magnum, where at any given moment there may be 9,000 photographers that want to get to Magnum, while all the members want to get out. That's the joke. Because it's always an exciting organization because there's so many different approaches to photography, and some of the newer methods are delve into an art form which sometimes doesn't, to me, connect necessarily with true documentary work. But the thing is that it's a continuous learning operation, and so you welcome, even if you're not familiar with or think it's on. It's a good thing to keep open-minded because there's different ways of getting to pictorial truth, shall we say. And I tried to. What happened is my work in Central America was noticed, and there's this one Rosemary Wheeler, who was the bureau chief in New York. Very beautiful, brilliant, and tough. Really in the best sense of the word. And I had met her briefly when a friend of hers, they were in Vietnam together, covering the war, and introduced me to her, and told her, "Oh, this is a guy you should know about." This is when I was working at the Examiner, and I was like, "Well, I didn't know anything about how Magnum worked, to tell you the truth. I just knew the pictures." And I remember just sort of scurrying away because what did I say this person after something like that? It's like you're getting cornered or something, and I didn't think myself the way, how you describe it. At any rate, I went to Central America and did, the work, and I got tired of hearing people saying, "Oh, it's so great stuff," and I needed to hear what could I have done better. What did I maybe miss? Those for a few months doing this stuff. So I met my friend in front of the ICP in New York. I just come out. Somebody from ICP asked to talk with me, and I ended up meeting with Cornell Capra, and he said, "Oh, you're going to." I was on the way to Harvard. And said, "You're going to have to make some, thoughts about how you're going to do things." So as I was leaving, I ran into his friend from San Francisco, who was out in New York, and he's staying at Rosemary's place. And we sat on a bench and talked, and I had a copy of the work I did from Central America called The Tortured Land. It's a 52-page reprint of the 15-day series. So I knew that Rosemary was tough. She's really focused, and I really wanted to hear from somebody who was not just saying, it's not that you don't like hearing work, it's good, but you need more, I needed more focus. And so I gave him the 52-page reprint, asked her if she has any time at all, just to glimpse through, and maybe she could, if she had any time, give me some suggestions of what I could do. So nothing else, but hey, it's nothing ventured, nothing gained. And so he went went back to the apartment, and I went down to my mentor's studio in Soho because I was going to be leaving, I think, a few days to go up to Harvard, and I got a phone call from at the place from Philip Jones Griffin, who's the president and Magnum, and he says, his first words were, "I'd like to seduce you to joining Magnum," which was startling, and which I actually thought was somebody who was trying to pull a fast one in a joke or something. So he asked me that one night maybe come down to Magnum to meet him, and I said, "Well, how about tomorrow? I needed time to process this stuff, and found out the phone. But like I said, I had no idea how they chose people and how that worked out, you know. So anyway, I went there the next day, and yeah, I was greeted like, you know, very nicely. I mean, it's like, I don't know if that was normal or what, but they're very nice. So I guess people had looked at the work I'd done, you know, around, and I met with Philip, and we had a talk, and you know, it's like he told me I should apply, and you know, and that was the beginning. That was the beginning. So it's like yeah, like somebody like idea of a dream. I had no idea. And the good thing was, I tell you, you know, you had to present a portfolio, become a nominee, and I did the best I could, put stuff together. And actually, Gene Richards was nice enough to let me. I printed stuff at his place also. I had prints I made in San Francisco, but I also needed, you know, to put the portfolio, you know, to get it together. And it was like real, how do you say, not a shock to the system, because my expectations were so, in some ways, low as far as the possibilities, you know, of you getting in. And so I didn't think much more about it. I just, you do the work you do, you listen to advice from people that you respect, and you move on. Because I was happy, you know, working the Examiner, a newspaper, San Francisco Examiner. You know, so I had a life there, possibilities there. And so I wasn't really concerned. I wanted, yeah, Magnum's the place you want to be at, you know, the kind of work that was coming out, and be inspired by that and grow. And that. But I wasn't worried, to tell you the truth, because also, as you know, you get so many different kinds of rejection. There's people who don't take you seriously, you know, or try because you're Afro American, you know. There's all kinds of nonsense that goes on all the time, and so shine it on. Just keep going. Do the work that you want to do, you know, not to pay attention to the other nonsense, you know. And I was surprised that, you know, it's like I was the first and last newspaper photographer to be taken from Magnum directly from newspapers. No one had actually become a Magnum photographer while they were still working for a newspaper. And I continued to work for a newspaper until I went to Beirut. You know, because in fact I was on the way. I came to New York to meet with Rosemary because I had to figure out what to do with me because they had never had that experience before. And as I came into the office, she was on the phone, so I sat down, and she was talking to Chris Perkins, also one of the people that I really admire his work. And he was getting ready to leave Beirut. And Rosemary got the phone and said, I wish they had somebody in the mountains, you know. And so I volunteered to go to cover their fighting in the mountains. And you know, it's like she says, do you have the money to go back or something? No. And they had a thing called Off the Top. They had voted not to do that for nominees, you know, because you're trying to prove yourself, and so you have to really deal with, you know, stuff and getting money together. Sometimes you're backing up so you can do stuff right, you know. And like I said, I didn't know anything about this at all, but they voted not to do that anymore. But then Rosemary called the executive board, and they all decided, yeah, go for it, because we need somebody there, you know. So there it was, on the way to Beirut, and I remember everybody in the office, we were at Park Avenue South at the time, when I was at the office getting ready to leave for the airport, everybody sort of saw me off at the door, which was like, well, I said, was this some kind of trick or something? You know, I might be in suspicion mode, you know. So, and that was sort of like an interesting beginning. It's just been interesting the whole time, you know, and just do the work that you want to do the best you know how, and be open to things, possibilities. And so most of my time has been spent here in Austin, Texas, but I am still working on a lot of stuff. I'm working a few movies, doing things like for friends even. You know, I haven't really got into like trying to make a lot of money, but it's really nice to help so you can do stuff. I'm working, you know, I wanted to get my archive to my work, lifetime work. It's like, you know, documentaries I've worked on, done, you know, of course, the photographs I've done, you know, and trying to get it orderly. I mean, I've shot so much because the world is such an interesting place. You know? That's the way it is. And I really have to get that organized. But meanwhile, there's so many other exciting things coming up, you know, they're doing. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about Magnum, because, you know, you arrive in Magnum and you're following a tradition of special history. You're part of history, photographic history, in the best sense of the word, if you're really paying attention. You know, so, or, I mean, well, basically, you have to pay attention to the work you're doing. I mean, if you believe in something, you have to proceed. You can't just, well, I don't know. You never know. You never know. So, when you get the opportunity to, you know, go, it's important, like, knowing when to say yes. It's as important as knowing when to say no on some things that may not be something you really want to do, you know. But I'll do things sometimes for people because I like what they believe in, and I happen to believe in it too, and I'll engage in that, you know, try to do some things with that. And I haven't really tried to get rich from doing this, you know. Now I would like to get rich so I can continue doing things and making more documentaries and films and movies and stuff like that. But I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm not going to hold my breath because, you know, just do what you need to do. That's the best thing you can do. And if you can keep that in mind, you're going to be okay, one way or another. And, you know, it's like, it's things, I am never bored. I am never, ever bored. There's always something going on that's special, you know, that you may not know, but you sense it. So you want to be close enough to it, maybe to document it or to listen. I mean, you know, what is it? Like when every time you go out into the world, there's a lesson to be learned that's of interest to you personally, generally. You just, like, if you don't accept it, you know, I have no time. You never have time. You have time to be born, and you have time to die. In between then, that's when it gets interesting, you know. So I like to check things out, people's lives that are really interesting, because we're constantly, what we're doing is documenting history. And there's different kinds of history, but we are documenting history, and that's what's going to make the difference in the long run. It's not just about covering wars, you know, at all. It's about covering life, you know, the life of human beings, basically to figure out, you know, what's real here, what's of interest, what's the next generation of people in the future, what's it going to be like. There's all kinds of possibilities. That's sort of fascinating, to me anyway.